Adventure is beyond travel, jumping from planes, climbing the highest mountain, etc. It's a mindset. Opportunities exist to explore and experiment everywhere as long as your heart and mind remain open to them. Today, we'll be discussing why there's no greater adventure than life itself and how we can incorporate adventure in our everyday routines. I proudly welcome the beautiful minds of Wyoming native, Nashville singer, songwriter Monty Mater, and Scott Fitzgerald of Rochester, New York's rock, folk, recording, and production. My name is Amanda Ashley, and this is Afternoon Cocktail, episode 107, Adventure. Welcome. Miss Monty Mater, welcome to Afternoon Cocktail.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Oh, such a pleasure. I love your music and your spirit. I can't wait to talk to you. What do you mind opening us up with one of your jams?
I would love to. I would love to. And since this is an afternoon cocktail, I'll sing a drinking song.
Sounds good.
One second. My heart hurts and I can't take it. Wrap myself in a bourbon blanket. I said I'd stop drinking, I'll stop drinking. But it's been 4 days and I'm still here. The bottle's become my medicine wheel, even though I know it won't help me. And I'll ignore all your good advice and give the wheel to my old vice. I'll behave, just give me one more night. With my bad habit, I gotta have it, a little regret, a lot of passion. Habit, been here before, bartender, give me one more. Habit, love at first sight, sing that whiskey lullaby. Habit, I swear it off tomorrow. My bad habit. I used to take my love like it's coffee, hot and fresh every morning. Stronger, better, I like stronger, better. Spent 30 days barely sober, but I didn't let my ex come over. I can change one thing at a time, and I'll ignore all your good advice. Give me the bottle, you can hold the ice. Home alone, but I'm drinking tonight. With my bad habit, I gotta have it, a little regret, a lot of passion. Habit, been here before, bartender, give me one more. Habit, love at first sight, sing that whiskey lullaby. Habit, I swear it off tomorrow. My bad. Just walk away and let me be. Don't take southern comfort away from me. Nobody's perfect. There's just one thing I need. to keep ignoring your good advice and give the wheel to my old vice. I'll behave, just give me one more night. Me and my habit, I gotta have it. A little regret, a lot of passion. Habit, been here before, bartender. Give me one more habit. Love at first sight, sing that whiskey lullaby. Habit, I swear it off tomorrow. My bad habit.
Nice, Monty.
You can
Awesome.
hear all my Nashville allergies today.
Oh
Never in my life
gosh.
have I had been allergic to anything. And you wake up here and you're like, there's pollen everywhere.
No joke. It's here in New York too. Like, okay, so
Oh,
I have a
dang it.
4-year-old. And so I just like this past year developed a real severe allergy to like foods.
Wow.
Well, I like cherries, like fresh fruits, but it all has to do with pollination. So like I'm allergic to, I found out like in the hospital that I'm allergic to fresh cherries, which totally sucks. Peaches, which I kind of like had an aversion to before, but really any like pollen. So like the other day my son, we have like a little bit of an incline on our lawn, and he's like, mama, let's roll down the hill. So I was like, okay. And I did it, right? And I did it like a few times, and all of a sudden my legs like broke out in hives, like on the back of my legs, like everything. I was like, holy crap, like the pollen, it's the pollen.
Yeah,
So
and like
crazy.
I was talking to my coach about it. Like I would come in, I kept clearing my throat. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm doing that. I don't know what's going on. She's like, do you happen to have allergies? And I'm like, I mean, I don't think so. I've never had them
Yeah.
before, but it's all
It's
good.
it's crazy like how like over time, like I didn't have bad allergies till like I moved to Rochester. Like I mean was allergic to a lot of things as a kid, and a lot of the same things I am now environmentally. But like I don't know, my whole sinus, like I just developed like sinus issues as soon as I moved to Rochester, it seems like. But yeah, it's legit. Like the pollen is out there, and they're
Yeah.
laying on it. It's
Here
being
she
laid on
comes.
thick. Yeah. So Monty, tell us a little bit about you. I mean, you're in Nashville now, but you were born and raised in Wyoming. Is that
Yes.
correct?
So I was born and raised on a cattle ranch in Wyoming. I went out to the East Coast for college when I was 16 and eventually ended up in New York City where I lived for 7 years. And I lived up until COVID time. And then basically decided my chapter there was over and then decided to live in my car for a while and hike state parks. And then I kind of accidentally ended up in Nashville. Nashville wasn't my original goal.
Did you have like what was your original goal with all your travels?
I mean, part of it was I had always wanted to do a trip like that, and it just I never had the opportunity, because you're working and you have responsibilities, and and I was like, well, now that my job is online, like this is the only time I'm not going to get this chance again.
Good for
And
you.
so, to be honest, I didn't have a plan. I
Yeah.
didn't have like, oh, I'm going to end up going here. I'm going to end up doing this after. I didn't know how long the trip would be, and I had no idea where it was going to end. I didn't plan that far.
God bless. I mean, I love that. I never totally have done that. Like before I turned before I turned 30. So I like my 29th, I just like recently got divorced, and I started traveling a lot, like just like booking like as many shows as I could and planning out like a whole like a month agenda, around that.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And I was doing that for a little while before I got pregnant and had my child. But um yeah, there's something just so liberating about even just doing something that's like loosely planned. I couldn't imagine just like being like, nope, I'm just gonna go here, 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 pick some places on the map and not have zero agenda. Like that takes balls, girl. Good for
It
you.
was just yeah, and I ended up getting so my biggest hurdle leaving New York was I didn't have a car. So
Mm.
I had sold my car to my sister. And so I was like, well shit. Like I don't really, I didn't want to take out like a car loan or anything. And it ended up working out in such a way that through a person I had randomly met in an airport 2 years earlier, I ended up getting a car that was fully paid off. And
Nice.
once I had the car, that was my green light. And I sold or gave away everything that didn't fit in that car, and everything was there. And so it just, and then it was, I knew that there were certain things I'd wanted to see that I'd never gotten to see. But outside of that, I was like, you know what? The road's going to figure it out. It'll iron itself out.
How empowering, like, of a trip that is, right? Like, to really, your life is in your hands and in your car. So, like,
All in
to,
my car.
yeah, your life is what you got on you. You know, it's like people that backpack, you know, like for however long. One of my friends is doing this right now. I think he's 29. His name is, like, I shouldn't say any names, but like he recently like moved back to New York, and then he came back and like we hung out like a bunch of times, and he was like, you know, Amanda, like I have nothing like really holding me. Like at some point I want to have kids and, you know, get married. But right now, like, I think I'm just going to go like get in my car and just travel. And I said, do it. Like, go ahead. Like right now, like, yes, like there's no better time. Do it. Like, go see everything and experience, taste, smell, like as much as you can, and live your best life, you know, and things will get figured out then, you know, and that seems like that's what you did, and that's
Yeah.
great.
And it was the happiest I've ever been in my life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
And
Good.
for me, like the earlier part of my 20s were really, really difficult and really hard. And there was a lot of things that happened. And so the 2 years pre-COVID, I had spent a lot of time just doing a lot of personal work. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I've got to deal with these different things like heartbreak and grief and all, like I was like, I have to do that. Like this is my life. I have to deal with it. And so it was all this work kind of feeling like I wasn't seeing any progress and I wasn't growing, but it all came together on that trip. And all these seeds that I had planted for the past couple years started to bloom, and like my confidence changed and my joy changed, my writing style changed, you know, and it gave birth to all these ideas I'm working on now. And I've never been that happy. Yeah. I mean, I'm still
What
happy. It got me that happy, and I'm still, just to clarify.
I'm so happy to hear it.
Yeah.
What about that trip? Like, what did you realize in the
Mm.
midst of this journey that made all those changes for you?
I think it was a combination of the freedom of it, and understanding that like I was going to be totally fine. Cuz obviously everything didn't go according to plan that trip.
Sure.
But it was going to work out, and that confidence in myself that like I don't need these external things to tell me that I'm on my way. Like I can do that. I can give myself that. Um and even kind of a change in direction in some of the things that I wanted to say musically. There
Mhm.
were some topics that like I had always felt were a little too vulnerable that I just started diving into, and I'm like, you know what, I do want to talk about this. And then like growing up, I was really overweight growing up. So I was bullied a lot in school. My dad was really hard on me about my weight. And so I was always really insecure, and it made me timid about certain things, even up until last year. Like timid about really taking risks, and not maybe quite as confident in certain areas as I should be. And that for the first time in my life, like the criticism of my body and the criticism and all that stuff just kind of fell away. And I was all of a sudden living in like a new reality for me, where like that wasn't part of my daily dialogue anymore. And so I was, you know, I started incorporating more of my humor into my music, and more of my humor even into like social media and my interactions. And it served me so well, because I don't feel that I need to alter anything anymore to be enough. I don't need to lose any extra weight. I don't need to be this person. I don't need to sound this way. I don't need to write this kind of song. Like I'm worthy because I am. And
Beautiful.
coming to that place. Yeah.
Yeah, what a beautiful place to come to. And yeah, congratulations. You
Thank you.
know, I'm
For the
glad
long
you
road.
found that. I mean, honestly though, it's so important for, I mean, everybody does things on their own timeline, but I mean, I try to, you know, people probably think I preach so much shit on this show, but honestly, I'm not really trying to do that. I hope that like by sharing like my personal experiences, your person, like each of us sharing our experiences, that like inspires people to really like I know what doing what you just said, like how that changed my life, like I felt like I personally like had, been in a dark place for a while that I hid very well, but to actually achieve happiness and come into a place of knowing yourself better is so like liberating, and it just allows you to see life like with fresh lenses, like you just look at life for all the beauty there is, and even when it's really not that beautiful, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of trialing times that we're all presented with, and obstacles, and heartbreak, and all the stuff that you said that you dealt with, in your past, right? But it's really like about making some choices that are going to serve you better, and in turn I think serve the people that you love better, right? Because when we take good care of ourselves, that's when we take care of everybody best, everybody around us best. I really feel that in my heart and soul.
Yeah, and also it's such a lighter way to live. Like when you actually can get to a place of like really loving yourself and you can drop one that criticism and that negative energy is just such a burden, and it takes so much energy and so much joy. Like when you can remove that, and you can, I think that loving other people becomes so much more accessible when you really love yourself. It's not that you can't do it,
Yeah,
but there's an ease that suddenly shows up with other people, and I think that like it's a gift to them and it's a gift to you.
sure. When you're genuinely like showing up happier to your own life and engagements, right? The
Yeah.
people around you catch on to that, and it's contagious, like I think for the most part, like people, I think some people like, I mean, I know I always radiate like when I'm around people that like bring up my spirits, that lift me, that are happy. Like one of my students, like I'll see her after the show today, and I look forward to her because she's got like such a good spirit, and then she's got a great laugh, and like we have
Yeah.
fun together. And
Yeah.
it's not just like, teaching student relationship. It's like, no, I just enjoy that energy, and like if you surround yourself with people and things, in your life that give off that energy that you just crave, that makes you happy, that makes you smile, right? Like what better way to live? It's there, right? You
Yeah.
just got to look for it and take it
Gotta find
in.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, do you ever, is your family still in Wyoming?
So my parents aren't living.
Okay.
But I have a brother that still lives in Wyoming and a sister, and actually most of my siblings live in Wyoming or South Dakota, and then I have one sister in Texas.
Very nice. It's so crazy. So like before this show, I dropped off my son to my mother to watch him, and she gave me this one of my favorite trips I've ever taken in life. So um, my mother and father, I don't know how old I was. I must have been like 11 or 12, and they took me on this road trip. I think we flew out to like Southern California, and we like drove from New Mexico, Arizona. We did Salt Lake City, Wyoming, the Dakotas. We
Yeah.
went to like Mount Rushmore. And it was like, to me, it stands out as like one of my favorite life memories. And my mom, I asked her about this trip recently because I was like, I, I was pretty young. So like, I remember how it made me feel. I remember the things that impacted me, like the historical sites that I saw. But I mean, main thing I remember is just the time I had with my parents, and it just stands out as being a beautiful memory. But so I asked my mom, I'm like, Mom, what was that route we took? Like, and I wish I could remember all the things we did. And today, before the show, she gave me she found the actual like map of from
That's
that trip, and it
amazing.
had everything circled. I'm gonna frame that like someday because it's like I don't know, it just means something to me, and I want to do that whole trip like entirely all over again with my family, hopefully someday soon. But
Yeah.
Wyoming was in there, and Yellowstone National Park, like I just remember like falling in love with it. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's such an amazing place. Like, and it's, I haven't been home in a long time, but like one of the things I remember when I would go home during college breaks or whatever is just there's a wildness to it when you
Yeah.
when you're in Wyoming or the Dakotas, like there's this little hint of like this untamed quality, which I was always so in love with, because it just, for me, like, I think if I had to narrow down like the thing that means the most to me in life, it's freedom. And that for me, there's a spiritual freedom in the kind of that untamed wildness.
Hmm.
And it's so beautiful out there. I love it.
What made you, I mean, did you just want to get the heck away from home, like, at
No,
some point?
actually, I wanted to stay home. So when I was a senior in high school, when I started my senior year, I was 15. I turned 16 during the senior year, and I had no intention of leaving Wyoming. I wanted to stay. My dad, on the other hand, had different opinions about that. And my dad knew me very well because we were basically the same person. And he knew, he just was like, this is not the life for you. Like, you're not going to be happy being a rancher's wife and staying out here forever. So he basically told me, he's like, you have to go to Virginia for school for 1 year. You can go anywhere you want after that, but you have to go for 1 year. Like, you need to get out. You need to get out. And he shipped me off, and I was so angry at him. But it was the best thing that he ever did for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's good for, I mean, at least like one at some point. Like I'm from Long Island, New York, which is very, I mean, well, you spent time in New York City,
Yeah.
right? A long time in New York City. Yeah. So I'm from Long Island and then I moved to Rochester, like pretty much straight out of college. But I mean, two places are entirely different. I mean, there's some similarities it bears. But just to get away, like I just wanted, I'm the youngest of my family. I'm half Italian, half Puerto Rican. My family babies me and they would have held my hand till like now. They still, my mom tells me things. I'm like, Mom, 36 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I got it. I got it.
I
You
got
know,
this.
yeah, I got this. But yeah, I think I just like I picked Fredonia for college because I was like, it was like 8 hours away. And I was like, I need to just be away and to try to experience life on my own, and get away somewhere new. That served me well. I think it's just good to, whether you travel or just get away from where you're from, at least for like a short amount of time or long enough to say like you experience something new, you know?
Yeah, and I'm all about that. And that's one of the things. Even so, my oldest sister has two daughters who one is in college now and the other one's in junior, I believe. Um, and I tell them all the time, I'm like, listen, get out, get out, get out, get out. I was like, I don't care if it's only for a little while, get out. I was like, the world is so much bigger than what you think it is.
Yeah.
I didn't know that until I was forced to leave. And again, and then it ended up, I ended up living in New York City. I lived in London for a while. I studied abroad in Israel. Like I got
Cool.
to do and see so much, and it changed my whole perspective on the world and on people. And I think that that's maybe one of the most important things that someone can do is to just get out of your hometown for a while.
Yeah, yeah, like you're saying, there's so much life out there, and we all get caught in our own bubbles, so it's
Well,
nice
and it's
to,
hard. Change is hard. Leaving home is hard. All of those things are hard. They're not
yeah.
easy.
No, but that's what makes you grow.
Exactly.
I think, at least for me in my experience, that's what a lot of my growth has come from doing what you did, like just getting the heck away from life for a moment and to try to experience things like completely on my own, like try, to get to know yourself on that type of level, right? Like when you just have like what you did, you just have your car packed with like your life, like what you have is what's on your back kind of thing, right? And to travel and you're in unknown territory, right? You're looking at faces you might see, or you're seeing for the first time and might see for the last, like could be
Yep.
the last face. But like I think yeah, just not knowing, something about not knowing really tests who you are and what you I don't know, just how you look at yourself. I look at myself differently because like what makes you feel good. You're on nobody's agenda but your own, and to have that feels like so liberating, to converse with whoever you want and not have time, somebody doing this to you, like it's just, I don't know, you explore differently.
Yep.
you know?
It's very different.
So tell us about your album. So in throughout your adventure, you wrote an album called Purgatory. correct?
So it's an album and it's not. So when
Okay.
I wrote Purgatory, and the reason I called it Purgatory was like, I'm in my late 20s. And so I'm in that kind of space of like, you're out of college, but life maybe hasn't gone the way you planned it. It certainly hasn't gone the way that I thought my life would play out. And you're getting older, you're entering a new chapter. And there's all those kind of like uncomfortable growth moments. So everything from like navigating dating as like a late 20, early 30 something, navigating kind of like feeling older and wondering, have I done enough? Did I make the right choices? And so I wrote these songs in my purgatory space. And so it comes out as singles. So it's one song per month for a full year. And each chapter is 3 months. So the first chapter is dating debacles. It's just where I've written like humorous kind of rock songs about, things that happened with me. Because growing up in Wyoming, I thought I'd be married by now. That's how I thought things would play out. Like, I'm not upset that it didn't, but that's just how, now I'm like, oh, this is great. Perfect. Awesome. But for a while, like at 26, 27, I started to feel like, man, is there something wrong with me? Or like, being 28 now and just being like, oh, I thought I would be further along in my life at this point. But so the first chapter talks about, just dating debacles and just different situations that have happened in my life and kind of making it humorous, because to me, life is just about stories. So it's just like, I'm just telling these stories that people I know can relate to, because women have told me similar stories. But then like the following chapters, I spend a lot of time talking about, aging as a woman, or being a woman that took an unconventional path and trying to figure out where you fit in space when you fill that role. And I talk about my struggle with my weight, and I talk about depression, and I talk about all these things that I've never really touched on before. I always kind of stayed a little bit away from them. But I'm telling the story over the course of a full year, releasing one single a month. And it just, that to me intuitively felt like how I wanted to talk about that space and time.
And talking about this space and time is like not only therapy, like you're writing from your experience, right? But I'm sure you, with your musical business mindset, that you have a message you're trying to get across to your listeners, right? And and why is it important? Do you feel in your heart it's important for you to share these experiences?
Well, I think one of for me, one of the biggest things is I've learned so much about like that I get the choice to write the story of my life how I want it to go. Like, I can't, obviously there's going to be a lot of things that happen that are completely out of my control, but I do get to decide my responses. I do get to decide what is the story that I want to tell later. And when I realized that I had that power and I had that much power over my life, I could suddenly take like some certain serious issues and kind of treat them in a much more lighthearted way. And then other things that used to carry so much weight in my life, as far as even like my own self-criticism, just became lighter. And I'm like, wait, I don't have to choose this path. I get to choose. I get a choice about where my foot falls. Like, I can't necessarily decide everything that's happening to my right and my left, but I get to decide what my step is. And that ultimately, purgatory is really about choosing your path and really acknowledging the funny dating stories, acknowledging the struggles, acknowledging the doubt, and then saying, but I'm the captain of this ship and I can decide where we sail. And that I hope that people can listen to this project and watch the journey of the project. And I would love the conclusion of it to be that they can approach life with some lightness and some joy, but also in full ownership of their ship.
Fantastic. I love it. I think that's amazing.
So that's because that for me, like and you obviously hindsight's 2020. I look back at, my early 20s and I kind of kick, or even my teens, and kick myself and say, man, I wish that I had realized I had much more control than I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And so that for me is what I like to give people, even in my general social media, platform. I really try to push, like, be yourself, say what's on your mind. You get to pick. If you want to take the leap of faith, take it. Usually of course, we like responsibilities are different for everyone. Like, for instance, I don't have children, so making some of those decisions is easier. Um, but at the same time, sometimes we get so worried about taking chances for the things that we want or the things that we hope for because we're so terrified of worst case scenario. When
Mhm.
really, worst case scenario typically is something we could totally deal with if we had to. And when you take away the fear of the unknown, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can take this chance versus, waiting and wondering what would have happened if I would have taken that step. And I have a little bit of an unfair advantage on that because my dad was actually a rock drummer in the 70s and
Cool.
a phenomenal musician. My dad was just unbelievably talented across the board, a phenomenal singer. He started as a drummer, he became a guitar player. And when he was in college, he went to college in Phoenix. He had the opportunity to go to LA to be a full-time session musician. Like, some people had actually scouted him to come out, and he called my grandfather and said, "Hey, this is what I want to do." And my grandfather was not having it. Was, "That's not what good sons do. You need to come home and take care of the ranch. You need to do this, you need to do this." And my dad did, because my dad thought, well, this is what good sons do, that's what I'm going to do. And up close and personal, I got to watch my dad spend his whole life pining for the dream that he didn't get.
Hmm.
And I saw, like, it, to me, that was the most tragic thing that I had seen close up in someone's life, and I just don't want it for mine. So I was like, you know what? I would rather fail abysmally and I will go work 3 jobs as a barista and an Uber driver if I need to recover, then I don't want to reach the end of my life, because my dad passed away in an accident. And so everything that he had done and achieved in a moment, gone.
Yeah.
And he never chased the thing that he really wanted. And when all that happened, and I kind of came on the other side of that situation, I was like, I will not live that way, because that to me is the saddest thing that I've ever seen. And so seeing that close up gives me a lot more courage to do things, because I know what the alternative is, even though it seems like the safe path. Like, you get one go around the sun. So that's how I make those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing you
Thank
and
you.
your your dad with us, and your story is very inspiring, Monty. And I wish you so much luck. Please tell our audience where they could find your music. I wish I could talk to you all day.
And
I still have so many
we're gonna do it
questions, but
here. No,
I gotta bring amazing Scott Fitzgerald on here too.
of
So
course, of course.
where could
No,
they find you?
all of my social media is under Monty Mader. That's MonteMader. Instagram, TikTok, all the places. That's where I am.
TikTok. I love it.
Oh, good old TikTok.
Well, Monty, thank you so much. We're going to hear one more song from Monty towards the end of our show. In the meantime, Scott, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for
Hello.
sharing your story, Monty. That really resonated with me, by the way.
Thank you so much.
And in what sense, Scott, like about your like parents
Oh,
or just your journey in general?
the journey and going after your dreams. I mean, that's we were going to talk about Bottom Feeders, the movie that I produced, and that I mean that's exactly the same thing. It's like
Yeah.
my partner Steve and I were like, we don't want to be 70 pissed off at the world because we never got to make a movie, so we have to do this now.
I love
It's
that.
so yeah, so that's exactly what Monty was saying is just boom, it's right there. It's exactly what I'm doing right now is trying to go after what I need to go after before it's too late.
Sure. And I mean, it's hard to make those, taking those leaps of faith, like it's, especially as a creative, right? Like we're always told that like there's no money in this, you can't do that. But as creatives, like I think it's so important to really do what fuels your soul. And that comes out in our work, right? And most of the time shines in our best work, right? And the things that we're proudest in. So I mean, what do you have to lose? Like Monty said, like we only have so many trips around the sun, it's
Yeah,
just go after it when you can.
exactly.
Scott, tell our audience a little bit about who you are and all the amazing things you do.
So, well, I don't know if they're amazing, but I try. So, I started a company called Rock Vox Recording and Production back in 2018, and I basically took over a business from somebody else who I worked for. I was a freelance engineer and editor for this person, and he was like, I want to close up shop and retire. I'm just going to call my clients and tell them I'm done. And I said, well, hold on a second. Let's not do that. So we worked it out so that I could take over the business. And I thought, oh, there goes one of my lights. And I thought adding a podcast studio would probably be a good idea because podcasting was on the rise. That was in late 2017. It turned out I was kind of all right.
Yeah.
It ended up being a good choice. So in 2020, with the pandemic and all of the main business that we were doing was e-learning, voiceover recording and things, that all just sort of flatlined. But thankfully, podcasting really spiked, and all this other virtual stuff really spiked, and so we stayed afloat. You know, knocking wood. Hopefully, we continue to stay afloat. What do they say? The first 5 years is the determining couple of years. You know, with the business. So we just celebrated 3 years. So hopefully we'll keep going.
Isn't it, does it like, is it crazy to you to see like the podcast world just explode like this? Like, do you think like,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously like, like for me, like the whole podcast route was something that I remember there was this podcast many years ago when I first moved to Rochester called Sore Thumb Radio, and that was a podcast. And then I also like had some of my music under like Cyber FM out in Long Island. They were stationed out of that I like would submit my music to, and I had them play. But I remember thinking at the time, like, who listens to podcasts? Like, I mean, they were great channels, but like now like the world like media wise has just like totally flipped. Like it's not so everything's so internet based, right? And
Yeah.
especially after this year. So like to see this uprise in podcasting, do you think that now that things are starting to go back to normal, that it was just kind of a thing of 2020 for a lot of those people, and that they're going to eventually go back to their lives and kind of leave that? And then I don't know, like, how do you see the podcasting world like evolve, continue to
I think
evolve?
you'll see some of that. I think you'll see some people sort of backing off and going back to how they were. But it really kind of clued a lot of people in as to what some of us already knew was going on. And so they were able to jump on board. When I first started working with podcasts in, I want to say 2005, and podcasts were really hard to do back then.
Yeah, I
Not
bet.
like, not technically to record it, because I had a show that I was doing. I was really into internet radio then, and I had like maybe 7 listeners ever at my
Yeah,
peak
yeah,
hours, and I was playing a lot of avant-garde music stuff from my old bands when I was in my 20s. I played in a lot of bands and stuff, so I was playing that music and trying to learn how to do podcasting. I did a little show, and for the life of me, couldn't figure out how to get it to work, because back then you had to know how to write the code for the enclosures, so that your blog, because you had to attach it to a blog so that your blog reader knew that there was audio. It was like this weird thing that you
obviously.
had to do.
Yeah, that's
Now it's
crazy.
so I think a lot of people are now clued in, and they're gonna hang on, because I mean, so I left my job. I'm coming up on a year in July. The end of July will be 1 year since I left radio. Um, and that's kind of weird to me thinking about that, but that it's been almost a year. But COVID was one of the reasons why I left, because my job had been really reduced down to practically nothing. And I was thinking to myself, well, why am I wasting my time coming in here pushing buttons for somebody else when I could go and push my own buttons in the morning and try to grow my business?
Yeah. So wait, you weren't actually like a personality on the radio? You were
Yeah, I
just
did
like,
mornings on Fickle 93.3 here in
okay.
Rochester.
Yeah, I mean, the picture up of you right now, that was from that. I know it's kind of like probably a weird picture to put up, but I don't know, your face looks great. So I thought,
That's one of the
uh,
only pictures that looks that good. So
no, it's a great picture. But yeah, I wondered about that. I saw that you're friends with Dino, or that you guys like had worked together, and I love
yep.
Dino. Shout out to Dino K.
Who
But
doesn't love Dino?
I know. He's like
He
such a
does
he's like
awesome.
he should be like the mayor,
He really
the mayor
should.
of Rochester.
He
Uh,
would do a lot better than what's going on now, but that's a different
yeah,
story.
yeah, that's a different topic. We won't get into that.
Nope.
Um, but yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, and to take so taking that leap into making that decision, were you scared as hell, or was it just something that
Of
like you,
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
what gave you the courage to actually do it?
I think so. I'm married. I have 3 kids. My son is graduating from Fairport this year, and he's going to Fredonia um, for
Hey,
music. He's a musician, so
fantastic.
he's kind of living my dream, I think, because I didn't follow my passion for music. I let other things get in the way, and luckily I found some other passions that were equal, and I think I do better. I don't know. I was a fairly okay musician.
What do you
Um,
play?
I play guitar, drums, saxophone, but I'm so out
Wow.
of practice. I don't even like to say that I play them anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but he's a trombone player. He's really into jazz. He's got a big old bushy head of hair. It's awesome. I'm like, grow out that hair. He's like, I want to get a cut. I'm like, you're supposed to have long hair. No. Um, but yeah, he's going to go to Fredonia, and I can't remember why I got onto this. Oh, so with 3 kids and a family with a house and all that stuff, I was like, geez, I'm gonna jump out of my at least my job. If I stayed in my job, all things being equal, it probably would have came back to what it was before it got all cut because of COVID.
Mhm.
Um, but there were a lot of things happening at the radio station as well internally that I didn't see a future with. So it made it easier. Plus, I had the support of my family, which was a
And
big help.
yeah, that always helps, right? So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about Rock Volk's recording and production. So I mean, I met you through Madge Madigan.
Yep.
And at first I didn't realize. So it's funny. I heard of I've heard of Bottom Feeders. I heard of you through Madge. And then I heard of Steve Miller. Like I just like through Facebook, but I never put all these things together, under Scott's umbrella. Right. So you actually so you have other clients aside. So you have your own podcast, number
Yeah.
one. So tell us a little bit about that first.
Okay, so it's positive blatherings, and it's exactly that. I blather. I get on and it's a lot like what you're doing with this show. Is we have a
Yeah.
conversation and we talk about positive things, success, overcoming obstacles, going after your dreams, that kind of stuff. I started that in 2017 or 18, can't remember, as an attempt to put myself in a more positive space. So if I figured if I talked about positivity every day through auto suggestion, I would then become more positive. I also figured that if I started speaking and having conversations with more positive and successful people, I would then become more positive and successful. Um,
So did it
it
work?
kind of it kind of worked. It kind of worked. It's more than just by osmosis. You really have to practice it too. You have to remain in that mindset. Otherwise, it'll slip away really easily. But it was also a way for me to learn to become a better listener too, as if I were having a podcast where I had to interview people. But the trick is I didn't do any prep for it. If I were having you on, I would say, all right, I know you have a podcast. I know you do music. That's all I know. And then we'll
Mhm.
start and we'll just say, tell me about your journey. Tell me about where you're going. And then the conversation is really, organic,
Organic. Yeah.
and it just goes wherever it goes. That's why it's a blathering. That, and I don't shut up sometimes, but, um,
That's why
so
we
that's
have podcasts.
right, right. And that's why we have post editing. Um, so yeah, so I did that. I've been doing that podcast. Sometimes I don't do it, like a couple of weeks will go by because I get busy. But yeah, we have a lot of people coming in here and recording their shows, and because they want to worry about the content and not so much all the other technical stuff that can bog you down.
Mhm.
So I do that for them.
That's great. I mean, I know there's definitely There's a lot of people out there. I mean, I think that's a legit business right there. Like there's people out there that want to jump on the podcasting, bandwagon right now, but they're just like not technically capable. Honestly, I'm one of those people, but I have Beau Ryan for that, and
Right.
I'm lucky that I have this amazing man in my life that could handle that for me and willingly. So, yeah, but I mean, it's difficult. Like, I mean, there's also a lot that goes into this, right? I mean, you're saying that with the positive blatherings, you don't have, I mean, there's still probably to some degree, like even though you might know a few things, you taking the time and effort um, to prepare what is about to be broadcasted, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, by nature. So like, I mean, everything on the technical end of it, there's a lot. Like I know with Beau and I, just as a two-person operation, like we're both wearing like 10 hats for this
Yep.
show, for 3 hours of our week. It equates to be way more than that, obviously, but
Sure.
I don't know. I got positive blatherings going on right now. So, okay, aside from that, see, unfortunately for these people watching, we don't edit this show. So what they get is a whole lot of Amanda's positive blatherings. Um, so Scott, how did you and Steve come together? I mean, were you guys just friends for like in life and then,
No,
creatives?
no, we met on the set of a short film. I was the assistant director, and I think he was doing sound. This was in 2015, I think, and we just hung around each other a lot and did a lot of work on short films, and figured out that we have, well, basically now we say that we share the same brain. So we figured out we had a lot of the same influences from movies and the same sense of humor and everything. And we were sitting around saying, we need to do a feature. And we're like, okay, great. And he said, I have a script. I said, send it to me. So he sent me the script for Bottom Feeders that he wrote back in the early 2000s. And I read it and I thought it was hilarious. And I said, we just got to, do a little doctoring on it and get it ready. And we that's what we did. And we started that ball rolling in 2016. And here we are in 2021. And we finally have it on Amazon Prime.
Congratulations. That's so
Thank you.
exciting. So
Took some time.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into that, right? I mean, and this your first, like, how long is the film?
It's 96 minutes. So
So
yeah, hour and a half.
that's considered a short film, or no, that's like a
No,
full
no, no.
length
That's
film.
a feature. That's a
Okay.
feature.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. You did say feature. So before this feature, you had just done shorts.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
wrote and directed a handful of short films here in Rochester just since, I don't know, for 10 years.
do you typically stick with comedy, or have you just kind of ventured in all different genres?
I've I've done just a little bit of everything, I think. Did a comedy, did a drama, did a couple of comedies, did sort of a horror slash thriller. I think comedy is the genre that I feel most at home in
Mhm.
because that's just my personality. Um, but it's really hard. It's really hard to do. I mean, comedy is such a subjective thing.
Yeah.
People, and even Steve and I, we disagree on some things. Like, he says that he didn't think Dumb and Dumber was all that funny, and I'm like, oh my god, I love that movie. And I talk to other people that say the same thing, or they love, I love the airplane movies, and they're like, yeah, I didn't really get those. And it blows my mind. I'm like, how are we friends? It's obviously
Yeah.
not that bad, but so comedy is like everybody has their own interpretation of what's funny and what's not. So it's a really difficult genre, but I just love it.
I'm always impressed with comedians, like
Yeah, stand-up comedians.
yeah, stand up especially, like anytime that, I don't know, it just takes guts. Like it's one thing, like as an entertainer, to put yourself either on a platform like this or like on stage and to sing music. but something about comedy that like you just know right off the bat there's somebody that's like this in the audience. It's like, yeah,
Make me
like make
laugh.
me laugh, like you're not going to make them laugh for anything. And if you
Right.
could get like a little smirk, like you're lucky. But I mean, yeah, there's some people, I mean, there's people automatically that just go, to like be that way, and but yeah, it's so subjective, but to know that right off the bat and to stand in front of people and that, are not going to laugh or, it's
Ugh,
gotta be pretty brutal. I imagine it being so
I know.
brutal.
I know. I
Eh,
have I have a bunch of friends who are stand-up comedians like Todd Youngman and
I
Vinnie
love
Paulino.
Todd.
They're
Yeah,
these guys, I mean, I just and Sky Sands who's in Bottom Feeders.
that's right.
Um I see when they go up on stage and there's always that chance that the joke's not going to hit and you're
Yeah.
going to stand there and but they move on, they power through, and over the years they hone their craft and they figure out what works and what doesn't work. But man, what a journey that is.
Right? I mean, it seems so courageous to me. Like, how do you get on stage? Like, do you like with the mindset that like that I feel like I would have to come into it and just expect to bomb, which seems like
Right,
the
well, I think
polar
you do.
opposite mindset of what you would want, like, so at least like if you're like, oh, if I just go in and, nobody's gonna laugh, whatever, like I'll just do my thing, right? Even though, and then to get those laughs, it's like a bonus, right? Like you're
Right.
like, yes, I actually did it. I feel like that's the mindset I would have to go in, like in order for me to not like be heartbroken.
That's
But
how I approach many things in my life. It's like I
yeah.
reduce my expectations so then I can so even if it's like a mediocre response, I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I pretty much do the same thing too. I did that with with this show, like I mean this is a positive show, but like I just thought like I honestly I was just like what the hell? Like what do I have to lose? Like I'm just
Yeah.
going to try this and hopefully like you said with the positive blatherings, like I was coming in from a place where I was trying to grow, personally and also like during COVID I was freaking depressed,
Yeah.
like with all this stuff, like with music being cut, and all our New York state restrictions, like I was depressed. So like I, like you said, putting myself in good company, in the good company of like, very intelligent people and people that have beautiful wisdom to offer, and life experiences. Like that's what makes me thrive and feel inspired. And I'm like, I want to share that with people. Um,
Absolutely. Glad you
Scott,
do.
yeah, me too. Thanks. And you too. Scott, tell us, I mean, so what is Bottom Feeders actually about for those that want to go order it on Amazon Prime?
So, Bottom Feeders is about two guys who are just trying to hang on to their carefree college lives. They're classic underachievers. The little tagline is "One last shot at mediocrity," and the girls that kind of come into their lives and try to either change them, and we see what happens when a woman tries to change a guy who doesn't want to change. Sometimes hilarity ensues, and that's pretty much what happened with these guys. One guy lives in his mom's basement, the other guy works at a movie theater, and it's exactly what it sounds like.
It sounds awesome. I'll have to check this out. Now, do you plan to like submit this to like any indie festivals or like, I mean, beyond Rochester? I mean, you got it on
So
Amazon, but
so the problem that we had, first of all, we wrapped principal photography on Friday, March 13th in 2020. So we finished shooting right when everything started closing down. So we were like, thank God.
lucky.
Um, but because of COVID, there were no more festivals. I mean, some were online, but we submitted a work in progress cut to South by Southwest, but it wasn't ready. So we kind of knew it wasn't going to get in. We submitted it to a distributor called Indie Rights Movies, and they liked it, and they said, "Yeah, we'll help you an audience for it." So they put it up on the platforms like first it was on Amazon for sale or rent, and then it became available on Prime, and now you can get it on YouTube, Google Play. It's on Tubi TV, and they're taking it to the Cannes film market, and they're going to try to sell it at the Cannes film market to see if we can get some international distribution.
Yay. How
But we
exciting.
kind of, yeah, it's awesome. But we kind of skipped the festival route just because the route wasn't there. The
Yeah.
festivals weren't really there for us, and we figured, well, the whole reason why you go into a festival is to get some distribution, and we kind of got that. So we thought about it. It would be cool, and we can still submit to festivals, but we can't submit to festivals if they're online. They have to be in person in theaters to submit to, according to our contract.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes total sense. I didn't think about that. Um, so, Scott, I mean, this is your first feature, right? So, what did you learn about yourself in creating this project? And how do you think it's going to make you, I mean, stronger production wise in the future?
Wow. Um, I thought I knew what I was doing until I started doing it. And then I realized that I didn't know what I was doing, or I kind of, I didn't know enough. Producing a film, especially just like you say, you and Beau wear all the hats. Steve and I wore all the hats for the most part for our film. We didn't have a huge crew. It was just I was producing, he was directing, and then we had, a director of photography and sound guy and all that stuff. But we didn't have department heads like you normally have. We didn't have an art department to deal with wardrobe and scenes and props. I had to do all that, or Steve had. So we had to do everything, and that was really really nerve wracking. But I discovered that I really really enjoy producing, which I didn't know that I did because I hadn't really done it before, just on a smaller scale. So I was like, I really enjoy finding things, finding a location and finding a guy who will give us this and do that and bringing people together who, that part was really, really fun. Um, and it helped me learn how to be better at troubleshooting and solving problems when you're in a real bind. It was like, okay, we have $2 and we need to make it stretch for the next 3 weeks. How do we do that?
Everybody starve yourself.
Yes. Don't eat. Step number one, don't eat.
um, that's awesome. Well, I mean, congratulations. What a huge accomplishment and
Thank
how exciting too. I mean, do you think you and Steve, do you have like another idea in the works for,
Oh yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, we're just creating our I was just we were just talking about that. I'm like, we need office hours. You need to come here every day at this time so we can say this is when we're writing because now we're filmmakers. Now we have to do that for real. So you need to have
Oh,
discipline to be able to write. Right?
oh
As a,
yeah.
any kind of writing, you have to discipline yourself to say this is when I'm writing. Otherwise, you'll put it off, and next thing you know, another week has passed, and you still don't have anything written.
Yeah, this show keeps me in check. Like honestly, it's one of the
Yeah.
main reasons I do it, because of my writing. I've like it's funny like I haven't been able to write like anything I'm proud of musically for myself this past year. I've done some co-writing with one of my students. So in some ways I feel like because I haven't written a song for myself that I love, like I'm like, man, like I was just dry this year. Like this was a dry year. Like I like haven't, like I feel like I've written nothing. But then I think about all 107 episodes of these,
There
I'm
you go.
like, actually, I've probably written more in my life this year than I ever have. It's crazy. So it's funny how like your brain like plays these tricks on you, where it's like you don't feel like you're doing enough sometimes, but you're
Right.
actually actively doing it. And like Monty said earlier, like we habits. She was singing about habits, bad habits, right? But developing good habits is really so important, and I always looked at writing that way. Like if you're in a groove of doing something on the regular, even if you pencil it in for like 2 hours of that day, at least you're doing it and it's
Right.
keeping you practiced. So Scott,
Absolutely.
where can our audience be directed to you and take on your podcasting services and download bottom feeders?
Yes. So bottom feeders can be seen on Amazon Prime, YouTube, Google Play, Tubi TV, and I think I'm forgetting one, but it doesn't matter. Thebottomfeedersmovie.com is the website. Our website here is rockvox, ROCVOX.com. You can find all of my podcasts and services there. And my email's right on there. Fitz at Rockvox. Just send me an email and let's start working on your projects. I'm happy to do it.
Yes. And you do a great job too, truly. I love Madge's
Thank you.
show. It's so much fun. I'm
She's a
happy.
blast. She is
Yeah.
so much fun to work with.
But honestly, like what I love, I'm sure, and what I love about the two of you is your banter. Like
Yeah.
you're such a great co-host aside from all the work that you do like behind the scenes. Like your voice just carries well throughout the program and adds so much to what she's
Thank you.
doing. So keep up all the great work and thank you so much for you. And Monty, close us out with something great.
I will.
Yes.
I will. I wasn't actually going to play this one, but considering our topic, I am.
Yay.
Yeah, this is a little bit of an adventure song. I wrote this song actually on the flight back from when my father passed away. And it was just kind of my reminder to myself that I could get back up and that I could keep going no matter what happened. And I would normally finger pick this because of our speakers. I'm gonna strum it. You tried to break my wings so I wouldn't fly away from here. You tried to make my spirit disappear. Tidal wave, I'm rising up to touch the sun 10,000 feet above the ground. Skydive, I'm gonna fly across the sky. Skydive, the world, it's all mine tonight. Skydive, don't tell me I can't fly. I've never been scared of heights. Break the strings of your puppet show. I won't dance 'cause you say so. I think instead I'd rather dance to the song stuck in my head. Now my reflection shows I am made of solid gold. Look at that, look at me now. Skydive, I'm gonna fly across the sky. Skydive, the world, it's all mine tonight. Skydive, don't tell me I can't fly. I've never been scared of heights. Now I could aim and I could miss, but I can't live with what if I love again. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna take that leap tonight. 3, 2, 1. Skydive, I'm gonna fly across the sky. Skydive, the world, it's all mine tonight. Skydive, don't tell me I can't fly. I've never been scared of heights. Skydive, I'm gonna fly across that sky. Skydive, the world, it's all mine tonight. Skydive, don't tell me I can't fly. I've never been scared of heights.
Beautiful. I love it, Monty. Thank you so much to Monty and Scott for sharing their
Thank you
souls
for
with
having
us
me.
today. Oh, yeah. What
That
a
was
pleasure.
awesome. I
Yeah,
love
it
that
was
song.
awesome.
Thank
Me
you.
too.
Wow.
Great job. Good stuff. Both of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure. So today's theme was adventure. Before having my child, travel was my oxygen. It was my opportunity to spread my wings, to connect with new people and places, to explore and take in everything new. Looking back on old video montages, happiness would just radiate in my expression and carry throughout my voice. Life felt invigorating as every day offered something new and exciting. My mother, my whole life, has been a part time travel agent. And throughout my life, my mother and I shared experiences that I'll forever be grateful for and cherish. It's because of her that I've been bit by the travel bug and value so much of what travel has brought my life. Growing up, I looked forward to my trips with my mother, not only for the adventure that awaited, but to see her truly like in her happy place. Her face, her spirit, her love for life was just lifted with every journey. And now I understand why more than ever. Having a child meant restriction and limitations before I actually had him. I feared the drastic turn my life would take once I feared the drastic turn my life would take once I found out that I was pregnant. Once my son was born, we continued to travel, but naturally took a step back by making our visits far less extensive and frequent. However, not all was or has been lost. It's actually been enhanced. The pandemic has awoken my senses on so many levels, and finding adventure in my day to day has now become a top priority. More than that, it's become my mindset. I found embracing adventure as a mindset to be unequivocally life enriching. To be adventurous has little to do with the exoticism of doing or seeing something grandiose as it applies to, as much as it applies to just escaping traditional life for a moment to do something out of the ordinary. Adventurous opportunity exists every day, yet often we only reward ourselves with it after we've already prolonged our necessary reboot and worked ourselves to the brink. Unleash your curiosity and grant yourself an hour in your day to just explore your happy. Get lost on a hike somewhere new nearby. Take an hour trip away to explore a nearby city or a nearby park. Take a stroll around a new neighborhood and just look at the beautiful houses and how other people are living. Take a stroll around an art gallery or a public market. Explore a new hobby. Try your hand at a new game or activity. Go to an open mic, ride your bike off a beaten path, take a trip to a state park, visit something historical in your area, or even just learn the history of your area. Try a new exotic food or a restaurant you haven't tried. I mean, etc. You could go on, right? I want you to ask yourself, what makes me feel happy and free? What gives me relief? What do I find interesting? And what more can I find out about it? And last but not least, what's something cool I've always wanted to try? What do you have to lose? Now's the time. You don't have to go anywhere but here. You contain the key to happiness, connection, and adventure. All it takes is a willingness to see life with loving eyes and an open mind. Happy Monday. Wishing you an inspiring start to your week. Please join us back here this Wednesday for a show at Rochester, New York's The Brothers Blue and Canadian author Robin Pollock. Thank you to Beau Productions, to Rochester Woman Online. Special shout out to James Farley of Northwestern Mutual and Maiden Voyage Studios. You guys all take good care of yourselves and enjoy this beautiful day. Bye.